Uh, there we go, everybody, just so you know. All right. So here we are. It is November 3rd. It's the start of November, the fall. We're well within the fall and getting ready for the holidays, right? So I guess maybe just kick off. Does anyone have any announcements or anything we should be aware of, what club related or, things that we should be aware of that people would like to know about? That was easy. So we have any announcements. And so how about any interesting vintage electronics people have acquired or want to sell or ongoing projects? Anything interesting you want to share that's maybe since the last meeting?
I actually just finished one this afternoon.
By all means, let's let her.
Oh, nice.
It's a 1940 Philco. I'll back up over there. You go.
Oh, that's beautiful.
4115, little 6-tuber. I kind of like this grill on it with the zigzag
beautiful
pattern.
Is that the original cloth, Greg?
No, it's similar. It's a Philco pattern. They use a crisscross on some 1939 40 Philcos, but
It looks pretty compelling. I would have almost thought that was original. Wow, that's beautiful.
So it's
got a rear view there.
Uber. I don't think it's might be the original back. If not, it fits good.
Yeah, that's beautiful job. Did you have to do any cosmetic restoration, or was that just purely electronic? Besides the grill cloth, of course.
Mostly it was electronic. Somebody had to refinish part of the cabinet. I just did the sides and the bottom trim. They didn't finish, but it's got the little bullet-shaped Philco knobs.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Still has the original back, which is always.
Yeah, I think it's the original back. It's got a loop antenna in the back, and some of these came without an antenna.
Was UL around at that time?
Oh, yeah. I've seen other Philcos of this vintage that had UL thicker on them.
Okay.
Well, what's nice about that one too, Greg, is where it has that wooden, grill work.
Yeah.
So many of that style. I don't know if they were earlier or later. They adopted that 10-night plastic grill that just, is all warped on about 99.9% that you see now. So that the wood is maybe that cost an extra $1.
Well, supposedly this was their lowest priced, one of the lowest priced models they had in 1940, but it's got a nice inlay on the cabinet.
Yeah.
This is
very nice.
This isn't
I love the woodwork. I mean, that's really quite nice, nicely, elegantly done. The grill woodwork.
Yeah, I picked it up just a couple months ago at one of our meets, and I never seen one like it before. So I thought, well,
is that 5 or 6 tubes?
6 tubes.
And
all
is that got shortwave on it as well?
Police band.
Police band, I see.
I think that doesn't have shortwave up to about 3 megs or something like that, or maybe just enough to
yeah,
get
I guess
CHU.
that's what they considered the police band back then. Yeah.
So you can listen to Calling All Cars.
Yeah, exactly.
That would look very nice in the living room. Very tastefully done, a nice little end table.
Yeah, so I just had
Nice
it next.
work.
I literally just finished it a couple hours ago, put it together. So I thought, well.
Oh, I'm glad you brought it up because you have so many nice radios that you sell because I see them from by following the Facebook. And I'm glad you show us from time to time. It's some nice eye candy.
You've had quite a few nice finds show up on the attic, Greg, and it seems as if your business is pretty good there.
Yeah, it's slowing down a little bit, which is kind of surprising, but I don't know how some of those people on the attic get the prices that they're asking. I think some of those people must be trying to manipulate the market value themselves. I think they must be putting them up there at a ridiculous price, marketing them as being sold, and then they shows up as one being sold at that price. I can't see some of those radios being sold for $900, $1,000.
Now that would sound like a conversation to have with Steve Adams. I'm sure he wouldn't be too happy with people doing that stuff, but I'm, not 100% sure how. I know he's kind of fallen off the radio truck as far as his own interest in the hobby. I know he keeps running the site because it produces some income and
Yeah.
it helps a lot of his longtime sellers
Mhm.
make a few bucks. But you do see things from, like the little, diner radio that we were looking at, up to these, $3,000 Waltons that,
Right.
I mean, the shipping's to have craters and freighters do a good job and to get it to you in one piece.
Yeah.
That's probably another $400. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a costly proposition. And I heard that Greyhound is no longer accepting
Doing
large
well.
packages for
Yeah.
bus transit, which
Really?
is a big kick in the slats for a lot of
Yeah.
people who ship
Mhm.
consoles
It's gonna
and
say it kills
larger table
console.
radios.
Yeah, kills the console business. But you have to just rent if you really want it. You're gonna have to rent a U-Haul or a van or something to get it home.
Yeah, there was
Right.
a fellow down, and Bob Bennett may know who he is. I might get his eBay handle wrong. I think they call him Willie, and he's sort of Mr. Console. I think he's somewhere in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and that was his primary mode of transportation out was the bus. So
Yeah.
Willie Bender is his name. He's in Philadelphia area.
Philadelphia.
Belsano, Pennsylvania is where he is.
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of wondered about how the bus scene really worked. Where did it go on the bus? And
Yeah.
so, long story short, I had somebody who had sent me something up from New Jersey who, strangely enough, works for a bus company. And so he had a tour.
Before we go to bed. So.
He had a tour coming up this way. And so he had instructed me. It was one of these strange radio hunts, and the whole thing was very odd. So I get an email about 2 or 3 days before the bus was going to be here. He said, "Could you pick this up on such and such a date?" And it sounded sort of I Spy. And unfortunately, I was going to be at work that day. I said, "Gee, I can't really make it." Then he got right back to me with an alternate. So I wound up going up onto Route 1 in Saugus, not far from where the Kowloon was, to I won't say a sleazy hotel, but it wasn't the best. I think it was a low budget tour group that was up on the trip. And I had to go to the front desk and I had to look for a guy in a jacket. He told me what it would say on the back of his bomber jacket. I mean, it was like something from a puzzle. I almost felt as if I was going to be, sucked up by aliens or kidnapped.
It's like you're
Put in the
watching
back
a
of the
bad
bus.
mob movie or something.
Yes,
you
and
know,
held
you
for
don't know what
hostage.
to
So I'm in the
expect.
back of a restaurant on Route 1 looking for a guy in a bomber jacket. I mean, really. So I told this to my wife and she says like, "Well, it's been nice knowing you, I mean, if it doesn't work out." So, but the whole thing was completely legit. The driver was very nice guy. He takes me out to the bus and, he pops up underneath the seating area. It just popped right up. And he showed me where they store a lot of bags. He said, "We do parcels." And, we kind of looked up under the bus and I said, "How did this stuff do with the bumps and the bruises and the potholes?" He goes, "Surprisingly well." He said, "Because the buses are so pretty well put together as far as shock absorption and whatnot." He says, I've yet to have something that got, damaged too badly. So, I mean, I got the thing home and it was absolutely perfect, but it just struck me as a kind of a novel way. And if in fact he was true, as far as the conditions things arrive in, he's a heck of a lot better than UPS. As I was today finally trying to reassemble a little Firestone, I think I had mentioned to you, John, that arrived to me as a box of sticks.
Oh yeah.
I got a box of Tinker Toys, basically
Oh.
courtesy of UPS.
Oh.
And it's pretty good. It's a pretty basic cabinet. However, it has some molding that has like these reverse, what would you call them? Sort of like reverse dado cuts and reverse angle cuts, and to fit them back perfectly together. I'm trying to do this mostly with glue because the tiny nails that they tapped into this, I just got rid of all of them because they were never going to get straightened out enough to find the original holes. And so I snipped them all down and kind of buffed them down as best I could so they wouldn't impair my ability to go with glue and clamps. And I'm almost there. So, but I've got a little gap and I think we're going to go with some type of a filler.
Yeah.
And we get some black craft paint to kind of touch it up a bit. And considering what it came in as, it will be okay with me. So
That's
But
too
yeah, so
bad. This is promising. We'll have to see your outcome, Paul, when you're done.
yeah, well, I've had bad luck with shipping as of late. So from my
Ah, yeah,
Telefunken disaster to,
yeah.
and so I'll go cold turkey, and I don't do this for a few months, and then something strikes, and I say, well, maybe he can get it right, and blah blah blah, and then next thing I know, here I am again. So I should just stick to
Unbelievable.
Brookline and in Nashua, but
It's
or
a
should we
pretty
say
good,
Wyndham at this point?
pretty
So,
good spot on the bus between the two wheels.
yes.
Probably the best ride in the bus. If you sit right over a wheel, you get jounced up and down.
Oh, yeah. I was
Yeah,
thinking
because it's right in the
exactly.
center. You're right, Tom.
Exactly. You have in fact, all the zooms
Sort of
floating over,
evens out.
exactly. Those,
Yeah, and
it's
I
long
could
wheelbase. So,
easily see how somebody would pack the chassis and speaker for the console separate, and then you have plenty of room for the case for the console to lie right down. And I mean, I don't know what Greyhound is thinking about. Maybe they're just making too much money transporting people, and or maybe the cargo became a hassle. I mean, I have no idea. But
well, maybe for extra seats, they put them in the cargo.
that's
Cheap seats.
They should just buy it a couple of seats. That's right. Yes,
Right.
you want to sit in the first row next to the driver.
For
Anyway.
wood filler, Paul, if you use that stuff, it's called plastic wood. That works pretty good for.
Plastic wood. When I was a kid, we used to go into the hardware store and ask for stuff called wood dough, though I have no idea really what it was. I was thinking of using some kind of a silicone, but I was thinking that could shrink up, and I'd like something that had a little bit of an adhesive characteristic to it as well, because anything I can do to kind of help this, it's pretty lightweight wood. The chassis isn't that heavy. It's 6-tube set. Actually, the chassis is an Arvin chassis. It's kind of a neat little radio. So I'll have to, if I can knock this thing off, my plan is to get it done before it gets too busy around here, and at least get it upstairs to play. So I'll show you when you can grade my efforts. Somewhere, I think, if I can get them on my computer, I have some before pictures right out of the box on it. So one thing I'll show the group that I can show you is I picked up. So we still have music stores. Those of you in Massachusetts may be familiar with Newbury Comics, and you never know what you'll find in Newbury Comics. So I found, for the big price of $5, a nifty box kit that apparently was done. It was a promotional piece. It was done for the Cracker Barrel stores.
Oh, yeah.
And Sun Music sessions. It's a Johnny Cash compendium, and the thing that drove me to it is apparently there's one disc in here with just outtakes, advertisements, off-the-cuff conversations. So I've heard some of that stuff from some of his sessions back when he was on radio doing a 15-minute show, and he'd interrupt the songs, the sets between the songs. He'd do ads for guys who are selling farm fencing and tin roofing, and it's really kind of neat to hear, somebody who made it that big to, get his start having to sell that kind of stuff. Ads drive the business, I guess. So, but yeah, I couldn't pass it up. So 3 discs, and I'll have to let you know how it plays. But it's in pristine condition. I think somebody bought it and just put it away. So nice little find.
Cool. No, that's. Yeah, and it's funny that I always like Newbury Comics. They have always some neat stuff.
One of the things that's happening there is, though, they have tons of vinyl for somebody who is into vinyl, and a lot of it is stuff I have that I bought in the 70s, 80s, 90s. So they have a huge vinyl section in there. But in the compact disc area, I'm not sure where they're cruising, but I saw stuff in there with library labels on it. I saw stuff in there that's very things you would never see in a CD store that was like a mall store from the from the 90s, simply because it wasn't commercially viable, I guess that would be the term for it. So you see a lot of things now, and they're only $2 or $3. I mean, they're yard sale prices. So I'm not quite sure. I know the vinyl can be very expensive in there, but for the prices on some of the stuff they're selling the CDs for, and especially in the jazz section, and you'll find old big band stuff and recordings that were remastered, recordings from the 20s and 30s. You'll find a lot of odd stuff for very short money. So if you still have a CD player,
Yeah,
It's worth poking around in one of those. There's one up in Norwood, and I can't help but think that somehow Ernie Bach is in the background with all of this stuff because he owns so much real estate up there. I
yeah.
can't imagine them paying rent on this huge store, but he has that music foundation. And I'm wondering if he might be, in league to just kind of keep some type of a walk-in music store open. So kind of a
Maybe,
neat place to kill a little time.
the last I remember, there's one in Natick. I haven't been there recently, but,
Yeah, they had a few of them.
that's one.
And
I'd
originally, I
like to
guess
go
they used
to.
to sell comics of all things. Can you
Yeah.
imagine?
Yeah.
Willie
think so.
Wares, yes, thank you, George. I think Howard had pegged him as well. He's down in Pennsylvania. No more bus for Willie. I don't know what he's doing.
Excessive theft, sad news. But,
Well, it's amazing what vinyl brings now. If you go just even at a local Walmart, if you look what LPs are bringing, they're between $25 and $30 for an album.
holy
And
smokes.
I think the problem with some of this stuff is you see some of these so-called record players that are being sold in the stores, which, I just killing your records.
They're cheap.
Very cheap.
Oh,
and I could
the
almost see the
Crosley
black
Cruiser?
plastic peeling, coming off
Yeah.
in thread-like strings as you play.
Yeah, I know.
So-
Well, yeah, you pay for $100.
Steel needles.
Yeah.
They did have,
Just a bomb.
was it an Audio Technica? They did have a legitimate product for a turntable, but they have a lot of the, the knockoff, they call them Victrola and Crossley and all that little, it looks like a suitcase
Yeah.
stuff that you get at a discount store for,
Right.
for $50. And I would hesitate to put anything of any value on. I can't imagine it would sound very good either, but
Yeah.
They,
right.
they sound okay. I have one of those, one of the names you mentioned there. Unfortunately, my record players, good ones, are buried somewhere in a shed. But just to play some LPs, I bought one of those little machines, and it's not bad. I mean, it's not high quality. It's two little, 2.5-inch speakers in the front, but it works.
does it have like an AUX cable? You could plug in a couple other
Yes.
speakers maybe?
Yes, it has
Oh,
a
that's not
couple
bad
of
then.
aux jacks. Yeah.
You
Much.
probably
We could
use
always
a
just go to
stylus,
Brookline and get some turntables.
Yeah, it was
Use
like
a
30. It was $30.
stylus pressure gauge if you're going to use that, just to make sure you're not destroying the record.
Well, the first thing I did is to check what the color of the groove was after I played it.
Yeah, right.
As a kid, I can remember taping a nickel onto the tone arm of my great uncle's. He had some type of a Sears contraption that I don't think
Well-
it had very good balance in the tone arm. So
And some of those have all three speeds, 33, 45, and 78. And they use the
Yep.
same needle
Yep.
for all three speeds, which is a no too.
Right.
Right.
Well, it says it's a sapphire needle. And
Yeah.
I used to do. In fact, I got a big bag of sapphire needles here somewhere, which I think I brought to one Brookline. I'll have to dig it out again and bring it. I got probably about 30 or 40 needles in little brown packages.
I was never too much into the, I played around with radios, but I never really played around too much with, because you went and I paid full price, as my money from working in a restaurant to buy my first component stereo. So I was hesitant to mess around with anything other than was meant for me to mess with. And, but I just wasn't real thrilled after a little while. I had a Toshiba turntable, which I still have, which is a pretty nice little turntable. Just wasn't thrilled with the sound. And I remember I went down and went to Leechmere sales and I bought a nice Stanton cartridge to go in and swap out with what they had put in at the factory. And that's when I realized that if you put a real nice head on your tone arm, what a difference, so from what came,
yeah.
because they were obviously those were the deals. Oh, you get tuner turntable and a set of speakers. So they weren't putting a ton of money into the components. But if you were willing to go out and buy something separate, what a difference did that make? So I still have that cartridge somewhere too floating around.
Yeah, down in Radio Row, you could get some incredibly high quality stuff, very cheap. And there was one guy, Mort Brody, who had a shop there. He sold me some great stuff. And he said, you know, you should know the difference between AC and AC/DC. A AC/DC set has been stolen and an AC set is legitimate. So he was dealing in some AC/DC stuff.
Interesting.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, it's been stolen. It's not the real Bob. It's some facsimile.
Yeah, there you go. That's Edison, Tesla right there. Yeah.
That's awesome. How perfect timing.
Nice.
Did anyone have anything else they wanted to announce before I hand over to Tom for maybe a 10 or 15 minute slot?
Yeah, just a real fast update on my
Sure.
little 94X, if people don't mind.
Oh yeah, of course.
I was fortunate enough to have COVID last month, if that doesn't sound too weird. I had a very mild case, but we have a immune compromised family member, so I had to stay totally isolated. But I felt great, so I was able to put a whole bunch of time into making progress on that radio. We were also lucky enough to have some really good weather, which I really wasn't expecting. So I just went to town on the cabinet and got that completed. I got my shipment of supplies from Mohawk. I hate to follow Greg with a cabinet refinishing status, but you know, for my purposes, I'm fine. It came out looking pretty good, certainly a lot better than it was. The dial is just a piece of cardboard with a shiny gold surface and numbering on it. And I looked at it, it would have cost $25, I think, to get a new one from Radio Days. So I just cleaned it up and I covered it with lacquer, and it came out looking good enough. That doesn't look great, but it looks a lot better than it did, and it's good enough for this project. So the outside came out pretty well, and I was able to salvage the original grill cloth. I just washed it up and stretched it, and it came
Looks
out
like it. Yep. I was going to ask you that.
and so then I started working on the innards, and some of you that are on groups.io probably followed some of that long thread concerning the curtain burner and different approaches to it. So I did end up going with the capacitor approach, and I used the surge resistor, and everything I had read originally said I could get by with 3 watt or a 5 watt surge resistor. I could have cooked eggs on that damn thing. And but a couple of people said, hey, just throw a 10 watt in there. And that's what I did. I got an aluminum cased 10 watt resistor, and I secured it to the chassis with JB Weld on the mount points, and used heat transfer grease, and the thing is beautiful. It runs very, very well. It gave me 60 volts on the filament string. Very, very happy. So then I went through and I did the rest of I finished off the cap replacement, powered it up, and I was getting nothing from it. And I was worried that the coils were bad, but everything ohmed out fine. It turned out I had to pull out so much stuff to do like replacement rubber wire insulation and everything. I had missed a jumper from neutral to the chassis. So the rest of the circuit just wasn't getting making a complete circuit. I put that jumper in, it came to life. I have some work to do because all I'm getting so far is WRKO, and WRKO is about 1.5 miles from my house. So you can get it on my toaster. So that's really about all I have left to do, is just to go in, troubleshoot the fine details, tune it up, and then it'll be done. And I really appreciate all the help that I got on groups.io from a lot of different members here. It really helped. And so I'm pretty happy with it.
Well, your friend should be pleased with it when you get it back to him.
I think he will be. I mean, he's got he's not a radio nut at all. He's not even much of a vintage person. So even though this is, definitely beginner level quality restoration, I think he'll be happy with it. And
Maybe you'll turn them on, you know.
yeah, could be. So thanks very much for every.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no, glad things are going. You'll have to give us a preview when you're all done, Bruce.
Okay.
Hey,
Before it
question.
gets packed up and shipped off.
Oh, hey, George,
Hello.
long time no see. Whoop, you're on mute there.
Okay. Oh, crap.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. It's oh, I'm sorry, Brad, I guess then George.
Oh, okay. Has anyone recall seeing an integrated turntable and tone arm with a CD burner? I saw this advertised somewhere for in the $180 range. No, for the life of me, I can't figure out A, who made it, or B, where one would get one of these beasts. In other words, it takes your audio off your turntable.
Right.
Most of the turntables now, you get audio onto a USB stick, so it converts it to MP3, which you could burn, but I haven't seen one of the audio to CD in a long, I'm sorry, vinyl to CD in a long time, but many of the vinyl players now do have a USB input, you know, it'll save to USB.
Thank you.
Hey, Bruce, I meant to ask you when you were had mentioned you got your reproduction radio dial. How is your service from radio days? I've read a variety of accounts that things are a little chaotic over there and people aren't getting their orders. Some get them and they have no complaints. Other people wait weeks. They never get an answer if they send an email or try to call. How long did it take for you to get your dial?
Well, I did. What I was saying was that I decided not to order it because.
Oh, not to. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you
However,
mentioned that you
I did have to order my RCA decals from them, and they came fairly quickly.
Very nice.
got them within a
Good to
week.
hear.
And I've also heard the same thing. And what I suspect that the ones that they keep on the shelf, the sort of the common ones, they probably turn around real quickly. But it's the ones that they have to go in and rerun for some of the more obscure dials and labels. I think that's where the problem's coming in.
Let's see here. So let's see. I think we well, just let me sneak in Howard first, and George, I'll let you in. And but Howard, I think you wanted to have a quick announcement.
Yeah, just one quick thing. One thing I recently acquired is a pile of 1-volt octal tubes. These are the 1G5s, 1C5s, 1H5s. And in this pile of tubes was half a dozen 1D8s. For those of you who experiment with regenerative sets, this is something that many hobbyists used. And if anyone wants one, please contact me, or if you have a need for any of these tubes, I'll put an announcement out on the IO groups because I just acquired a whole pile of these. That's one of the announcements. Like I said, I got a handful of 1D8s that, you know, if somebody wants to experiment, it's an interesting tube because you can have a 1-tube radio that drives a speaker. I just want to share with you guys, I've done maybe 2 radios a year, but here's something that I just completed. I'm not going to tell you too much about it. The reason why I'm not going to tell you too much is because I wrote an article about it that's going to appear in Raven once the editors clean up my spelling mistakes. But anyway, look forward to that. That's my radio for the year. I'm done fixing radios for the year. So
Tell us a little bit more about what the make and model is, and then we'll leave it at that. We'll have to wait for the article, or is that still have to wait for the article?
That is what the article is about.
Oh, okay. Of course, you did read it.
It's about the search for information about this.
Okay.
But looking through
He's building
databases,
suspense.
I see.
So you guys are going to get a treat with that anyway.
Wow.
Maybe I'll bring it to show and tell at NEVEC or one of the other things. So
That
anyway, that's
awesome.
just something to look forward to. And that's it for me, guys.
Oh,
Well,
no,
after the breaking news, maybe you can show us a little bit more about it in one of the Zooms.
Well, I love what you did with it. It's an awesome looking radio. So yeah, I'm looking
And
forward
of
to the
course, the
article.
tuning eye.
Yeah, we
Expect
see it
nothing
tuning. Well,
less.
it's got to be. It was not how.
Yeah. And just so you know, Mark Palmquist made the dial, the plastic dial, because the other one was simply you couldn't see through it, even though it was in one piece. But
He does a nice job.
it's decent. So
Mark's a great guy. He really is.
Quite a cabinet. I'm looking forward to the article, Howard.
Okay,
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yes,
thank you,
absolutely.
guys.
Hey, George, we haven't seen you in a while. I think you wanted to have something to add.
Well, I don't know if it's so much to add. I had a question to see if maybe someone could answer it. But yeah, we've been really busy. No problems other than Thursdays are a tough day for me sometimes. So, but my question was mentioned there about the curtain burner, replacement, and I've been looking at that for a couple of sets that I had, and I was wondering, has anyone? I keep going back and forth in my head as to whether something like this would be possible. But you've got the diode and the resistor, you've got the cap and the resistor. Do you think it's possible to use the diode and a cap? I mean, I know normally it would be DC, but we're talking about half cycles, which kind of is like an AC signal. And then you got a cap there. Would you be able to use those two in combination to drop as well as the other two? But I've never seen that being espoused, or it certainly isn't in the spreadsheet.
It never came up
I
on
just lost my earphone here.
it never came up on the chat that we were having on groups.io. The same thought occurred to me because I had done a transoceanic last year, did the whole selenium rectifier replacement with a diode and worked out with the resistors to get the rate voltage. And I was thinking, well, why don't you combine those two? That was the one combination nobody ever mentioned. I never asked. I still don't know.
Well, maybe it's an experiment to be done. Well, thanks, Bruce.
Yeah, but if you're just, doesn't the diode do the whole thing? I mean, all you're doing with filaments is heating them, and it's the, it's the RMS power you put into it. So half wave should do it, right?
Well, the problem is that I've got too much of a voltage to drop. And so the idea being is if you can use a reasonable size cap and a diode, you'd lose all that heat.
There was an article in Antique Radio Classified many years ago, and I wish I could remember the year and the month and the art. But there was an article, a way of doing it with a non-polarized electrolytic cap and a resistor. And it was whoever wrote the story, it was well done. And I did a couple curtain burner radios like that, especially if you're going from, wherever your line voltage is, and you got to go to some ridiculous number like 55, 60 volt. This was the way to do it. And it didn't really generate that much heat. I just don't remember which year or which month it was, but it was a great article. But the trick is to use a non-polarized electrolytic cap.
Right. That's basically what I've found. In fact, I ended up trying to find the caps. I ended up getting them on Amazon. There's quite a few of them out there with different settings. But when I looked at the one for the resistance for the radio I was looking at, the wattage that was needed for the resistor, and I think as I'm not sure who it was that was talking earlier about the replacement. You might be right at the correct wattage, but you're going to generate a lot of heat at that point because you got, I don't know, what is it, 120 milliamps or whatever the current is that's needed for those filaments, and that was part of the problem. So, just a thought.
I do only recall seeing something involving a bridge rectifier with a Zener diode, such that the combination would insert the Zener voltage drop, but yet it would be quite happy getting AC. I don't recall where I've seen that either, unfortunately.
That's actually a good idea. I should give some thought to that too.
I mean,
George, sometimes I've been looking for information on something and I'm not quite sure, sometimes I don't know how they're stored, but there's all these antique radio classifieds that are, reside on the web. So if you did like a search, non-polarized capacitor, curtain burner fix, I tried various combinations of words, but sometimes when I've been looking for something, it will actually bring me to a radio that somebody, an article that somebody did in the Antique Radio Classified. And as opposed to, website or a web page, and I think they're like PDFs that are somehow out there. I have no idea how or where they reside. I know there's all kinds of archives attached to that antique radio classified site, but maybe you could track down that article that was mentioned.
But I'm just curious, the non-polar, I mean, isn't that what the capacitors for motor starts is non-polarized too? Isn't that a capacitor?
That's correct.
Mhm.
Yeah, but those always seem to come in really weird values, but that's.
Yeah, for like a curtain burr radio, it's like 7 microfarad or
Yeah, forget
some
that.
weird value, but you could actually use a motor start capacitor
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, they're all over the place. They're cheap and they actually will take current going back and forth through them. So, but I'm just curious. So why shouldn't just going to a half wave power supply for the filaments will get the same? The peak voltage would be 110, but the RMS will still go back to the 60 volts that you want. So shouldn't a diode just do it as far as heating is concerned?
When I looked at the spreadsheet that used the diode and the dropping resistor and the surge resistor, it for the radio I was looking at, it was looking at a Bluebird. So the wattage was getting too high. I mean, I'd have to go to a capacitor with a resistor. But I was just trying to look at something that would be pretty small. I mean, you can get some pretty powerful diodes that are very small and don't generate a lot of heat. So that was my thought.
Yeah, because if you're running with a half wave diode, then it's the equivalent of just dropping the voltage in half, right? So you'd end up with 60 volts instead of whatever the things were, 62 volts. Probably doesn't make any difference, I guess, but.
One thing you have to be concerned about using a solid state diode in more modern radio is that solid state diodes have some of them have a reverse recovery in time, which they conduct. The diode continues to conduct when the voltage across it has reversed. This produces a very steep waveform that can radiate harmonics up through and give you tunable hum, among other things.
Yeah, those things they're very fancy diodes, which are used with step recovery, which are used in pulse generators. They used to be for generating signals out into the gigahertz range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, been there, done that.
Okay, well, thanks everyone. I didn't mean to derail things. It was just a question. I thought maybe someone know.
Good conversation.
Yeah, no, of course, that's all part of the meeting. Not a problem. So, so Tom, maybe give you a little slot to take us back to Friedrichshafen.
Okay, we'll do that. Let's see if this is working. Can you see that okay?
Sure can.
Okay, just to remind people, this is a huge ham fest in Europe, and hams come from all over Europe, some South American, some Japanese. It's the European version of Dayton, and it's just table after table of amazing stuff that surprisingly you probably have never seen before. And that's one of the reasons I love it. The real reason I love it is that I've found a lot of enigmas there. And aside from that, just walking around the place is, it's just a surprise palace. You have no idea what's going to show up. This, I think, is the slide that I stopped at last time. If something looks familiar, let me know, but I'm trying to keep a record of where I went. This is an interesting looking little TV set, and I think that I see at the left end of the dial up there looks like one of those seeing eye tubes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I don't see a brand name on this thing, but that would sort of probably imply that it's a radio and TV combination. They often put the names of cities on the radio dial rather than the frequency. So yeah, that's a typical European phenomenon.
Tom, can you zoom in on that dial by any chance, or?
Say again?
Could you zoom in on the dial?
Yeah, I'll try.
I'm
Yeah.
just curious if there's a logo or something.
Yeah, I'm looking for that as well. It looks German just because of the style of the of the dial face. Oh,
Oh,
I think
Tesla.
Tesla. Look at
Tesla,
that.
all right.
Wow, I've never seen one of those before. Not this TV and radio combination.
Thank you, Howard. That was a good idea. Let's
Oh,
see if
thank
I
you.
can, let me see if I can sharpen it a little bit. That's a little sharper.
It's a,
But it's a neat set.
there is.
Yeah, certainly. Prague, yeah, okay. I'll move
Nice.
on to any other comments on that? Okay.
Yeah, the magic eye jumped out on us.
Nice little phonograph, interesting looking speaker. And this looks like a kaleidoscope. I believe it is, but not sure. And then there are a couple of radios. Looks like a little crystal set, the brown one down in the front, and just barely see a logo on the one in back. Course and antenna.
That's short and long wave.
Long,
antenna.
short, yeah.
The antenna.
VGE, it looks like.
That. Don't know what that is unless I can't tell there are jacks below the handle. There may be jack points below that
Yeah.
handle.
You would almost think it's an antenna tuner, but unfortunately, there's stuff on the right which we can't see.
Maybe a pre-selector or something, but that is cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's possible, right? Very possible. Nice little crystal set. These things are just, there are hundreds of them around this show. Let's see, go over to that. Couple of radios in the back there. The unit in the foreground is a classic European telegraph station. And it includes a big telegraph key that you see at the far end of the board, a register that writes dashes and dots literally on a moving piece of paper tape, so you can visually read the Morse code. The round thing that you see in the left is a polar relay, and the meter that you see in the back left is a galvanometer that was usually used to indicate the condition of a telegraph line. So that's the kind of telegraph station that you would see in most European post offices and telegraph outfits. On the right, there's some kind of a spark coil. Looks like a pointer and a flat plate. So it's probably just a college or high school demonstration set. In the back, a couple of radios that look intriguing. Looks like a RA on the right side of that guy. I don't know what the rest of it says, but it's an intriguing little device. And over on the right, we have maybe a logo, but not easily identified. Okay, this is a Telefunken set. Looks like a little crystal detector in the left foreground, and tuning, and there'll be an antenna connection and a set for your connection for earphones. The device right in back of it is a mirror galvanometer. Mirror galvanometer, when you shine a light on the mirror and the galvanometer picks up a change in current, the mirror swings, and the light beam actually swings twice as far as the mirror swings. And so it's a very sensitive way of detecting electrical changes, quite typical of telegraph stuff in Europe. Let's see, what are we looking at? Looks like a battery eliminator, doesn't it? Got a lot of apparent voltages there. Looks like it's upside down.
Looks like a cording made radios. I think they were in Eastern Germany. I think this is if I flip my head upside down.
Yeah.
It's cording.
The VDE we saw in another set there just recently. I don't know what that is, or DR. Horror.
Is it? I think that's a K. I think it's cording.
Yeah.
Isn't
Uh,
VDA
The
a,
DVE is a stamp that you see on a lot of radios. It's a if it was in Germany, it would be the government electronic sanctioning body.
Thank you. That's very interesting.
And Tom, the other thing, yeah, thank you for all of this, but in front of that unit are some Edison rolls.
Yes. Turn it
Yeah.
around here and see if it's any easier. Whoops, come back.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they're from an Edison roll machine.
Yeah, yeah, right in the foreground there.
Yeah. Wow.
Interesting set because the dial on the right looks like a rather complex dial, and the diagram down below shows that it has maybe two cursors on it. Not very clear what that does, but it looks like certainly a vernier center dial maybe, and coarse outer dial, perhaps again for setting the frequency, the voltage of the device. Let's move on to another one. This is a classic British needle telegraph set that was used right up into the 1940s on the British railroads to indicate the condition of tracks. If there was a train on a given track, it would indicate that, and saved a lot of, prevented a lot of accidents. Down train on line, down line closed, down line clear, and so on. So this was the device before they got to those fancy consoles in railroads. This was the device they used to tell what was going on the railroad lines. And sitting on top of it, a nice speaker. And let's see what we have here. This looks a little bit like a rectifier power supply, doesn't it? Battery eliminator or something. And on the left of it looks like a crystal set with a vertical coil and then a little detector in a glass circular tube. And again, we have the Edison phonograph discs on the cylinders, and that's a closer view of it. I don't think there's a maker's name on it. Maybe there is. Yeah. HB maybe. But cute little detector. The crystal detector is really pretty neat. Looks like there's a screw on the right side. You put a screwdriver or a dime in there and adjust that. And then their cat's whisker controls the red thing on the left. And let's see what, whoops, sorry. See who made this guy. LA, again, maybe. Sharpen it up a little bit, blow it up a little more. K-E-L-I-O.
Heliogen?
Heliogen or heliogen.
Heliogen, maybe a heliogen.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
It looks like the crystal detector goes in the bottom two, and it's almost, they have a picture of it. Maybe they use pictures to tell you what to plug into the thing.
Yeah.
And let's see, another radio fair. There are lots of different radio fairs in Europe during the summer. This is a military device. I don't recognize it. The word rohr, R-O-H-R-E, stands for tube. So it's vaguely possible that this might be a Geiger counter, I guess, with a tube in there, or out and in, red, free. Don't know what it is. I should, because they show up fairly frequently. This is a beautiful, beautiful set. Be fun thing to bring home. Anything with those tubes on top is always impressive. And The honeycomb coils are lovely. And a lot of these sets show up in French antique shops for insane amounts of money, maybe $3,000 to $5,000. And at this show, they're going to be much, much, much cheaper. Let's see if we can get a name off the bottom there.
In the middle there somewhere.
Yeah.
The diamond shaped thing.
Yeah, his little badge.
Oh,
It looks French, Lemouze or
yeah.
Yeah.
Let me
Gallery. Let me say, oh, some.
sharpen it up a little bit. Atelier Lemouze. So
I think
whatever
they'll
that
say, might
means.
even say Paris at the bottom, maybe.
Yeah, it could be.
Anyway, it's a nice set.
Unusual.
And lots and lots of meters. Many of these are telegraph line meters, a couple of telegraph keys on the left, and a relay in the front here. Some of the meters are particularly attractive. This little square guy down here is very nice looking. It's a galvanometer. It's used with telegraph sets, as is the one on the left with the wooden box around it, but some of them are very pretty. Not very useful, but nice to look at. Bunch of telegraph keys. The ones in the toward us are either American or British, and the same in the back. The upper left-hand key is a Russian telegraph key.
Okay.
And here we have a really interesting looking set. Looks like a honeycomb coil on the front of it. 3 tubes. Let's see if we can get any information. It looks like AJS is the maker or something. And the little horizontal things that they looks like they are filament resistors. It says FILRE, so that looks like a filament resistor. Handles on the coils. Just a fun set.
They had the box below that said AJS inductance coil. So
Yeah.
Coils, yeah, it had the little
That
boxes.
AJ Stevens. Can you go back to that one, Tom?
Sure. Let me just stick with this for 1 second. Burn department.
that's not good news.
So you put your
Which is what
fingers
it could be
across
if you
the
weren't
area
careful
on
trying
the
to fix
ground
it.
and you get your burn.
For the whole family.
Yeah, right. Okay, going back. Okay, you want to zoom into something there?
the box.
Yeah, the box on the bottom there, it says
They
AJ.
look like cigar
Stevens.
boxes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just curious where the AJ Stevens, it looks like there's an address perhaps.
Yeah.
Oh, right. If we go in a little bit, oh, yeah.
Nice.
A.J. Stevens and Company, something
Yeah.
limited.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in English as well, so that's a good clue.
Then
It
Brit-
probably is that company.
Southampton.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
AJ Stevens was a British
something
automobile and
limited.
motorcycle manufacturer in operation from 1909 to 1931,
Oh,
Wolverhampton, England.
Thank you, Tom.
you bet.
Wolverhampton,
That's
yeah.
neat. Nice spotting. Very nice. Here's a little closer view of this guy. Or is this the same one or a different one? Different one. Okay.
Mm.
Let's see what this guy is.
Oh, look at that. A lot more levers and knobs.
Looks
If it
like
had a mirror on top, you could do your
another
makeup
burn
in front of that
department.
thing.
How can it be a burn department?
That is pretty.
Maybe it's a quack medical device.
Yeah, I guess maybe. Burn department receiver. And what's it say under there? Mark 5? Mark something.
Well, apparently the
Okay.
first 4 models weren't
Mark, it's a
burning
Mark
enough
II.
people.
Is
Got an
it degrees of
amplifier and a
burning?
protector.
Yeah, it's a Mark II in Roman numbers.
Oh, okay.
It's the second degree burns.
There's a logo at the bottom.
Did I miss that?
There's a badge on the wood.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's in English, so, it's,
Yeah,
if it was European, it would be in some
it?
other language.
Almost looks
Yeah,
like
you're right.
PVC or something like that, but I can't really tell.
Pennsylvania Burn Corporation.
I Googled it and it's the manufacturer of domestic electrical goods.
oh, no kidding.
And
Okay,
there's actually a museum of it in
Really?
the UK. Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Nice, thank you. So in the foreground here is one of the folks empfangers, the people's radio receivers that would only listen to Hitler's voice. And if you did manage to tune it to something else, you would be in bad trouble. There were a tremendous number of these circulated to the German people so that they could listen to the Fuhrer. In back, it looks like an interesting set, maybe with room for a speaker on the right, possibly.
Yeah.
Or a battery.
Yeah, a little shot of something. That almost looks like a power supply there,
Hmm.
maybe with an adjustable filament voltage or something. The tubes look interesting. And let's see, what do we have? Another Volksempfänger in the front there.
Hmm.
Typical suitcase phonograph in back. And what's
And
that?
an avometer on the right,
Okay, what kind of meter?
an Avo multimeter.
Ah, very nice. Good spotting. That looks like a nice one. No indication on this radio on the left unless it's hiding behind the radio in front of it. And classic German tube there. Let's see what they're advertising.
Military vehicle pictures.
I
Yeah,
think
tanks.
those are
Postcards.
military vehicles. There's that radio again. I don't see any kind of an indication of what it is.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
Maybe- yeah. You would think that every
Maybe
maker,
there was a badge or something missing. It looks like there might have been something on the right.
yeah,
It
It
fell
could have
off,
been
or
repainted.
worn off. Yeah.
Maybe
and something on the left there. Okay.
modulation.
It's a spy radio, it's secret.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
there we go.
They got a transmitting tube in the front, a multi-purpose tube in the middle. And let's see what this radio is. A Ducrete.
Yeah, must be Frank. Yep, Paris.
Yeah, French, yeah.
Yeah, Paul Ducrete. Chord and modulation. Well, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll look at a couple more. Let's see what this guy is. Curry coils.
Is that BBC? Does that say?
Oh, what a lot of wonderful stuff.
Right.
Look at that.
Everything- It's all in English,
Yeah,
including
Yeah,
condenser in the back there.
yeah.
yeah.
So I
Oh, it
wonder
says
who
the
made
BBC
it.
label at the bottom.
That could be a license thing.
It's the
Oh.
BBC. I don't think it's the real BBC, but maybe it's a different BBC. Let's see if we can blow it up.
You had to have a license to listen to radio in England, and you had
Yeah.
to buy it from the BBC.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I used to have one when I was a kid and had to pay for it.
So is that a stamp that they put on your radio that says you're legal to listen?
I don't recall
Okay,
having,
yeah. Can't read it well enough to tell.
yeah.
Does that
Yeah,
stand
you
for?
you even had to have a license if you built your own radio.
Wow.
And you had to be very careful of the post office, people running around with direction finders and things like that, looking for squeals and
Yeah, they're
oscillators.
looking for the super heterodyne frequencies of your set.
Yeah.
I only heard of that with respect to television. They'd look for the IF for the television sets, but I guess they did that with radios.
But did it with radios too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adrian, when did they drop that requirement?
I don't know. I think it was before I left in '63. So it probably was late 50s. People got really pissed off that they had to have a license to have a transistor radio when they came out.
Did you have to renew it, or was it one time?
It was renewed every year.
Oh, how annoying. I can say.
How much did something like that go for?
It was only about like 2 shillings, you know, it was
Not a lot.
It was still a nuisance.
50 cents or something, yeah.
I'm looking at that set over on the left, trying to
Yeah,
figure out
it's
what it is,
unusual,
but
especially
I
on
don't
speaker
think
group.
there's not enough showing. Maybe I have it in the next picture. There we go. Okay.
Oh, look at that thing.
Wow.
That's beautiful. Look at that. Let's see, who made that baby?
I think
Radio Turner, maybe? Radio Alterna.
Yeah, I
something Alterna. And
unusual. Not something I've ever seen before.
Looks like it may be Italian.
Yeah, that's. I'm looking at that. Is that
Look at the knobs and see if there's any English, anything on the knobs.
It says Paris right below.
That's what I thought as well. I was trying to see if that was definitely an R in the middle. I think that's French. Yeah, I agree, Howard. Yeah.
Yeah, let me zoom back out a little bit on
It
that.
is indeed French.
Nothing's labeled on the top. What is that wonderful little thing in the middle? Is that some kind of crystal detector, possibly?
Gorgeous tubes, though.
Yeah, aren't they beautiful?
Yeah, gosh.
Those blue tubes.
And the cabinet is lovely.
Yeah, but how unusual. First one I've ever seen.
No, there are a lot of those. A lot of those, the French love them. The antique stores are filled with them. I think they use them more as table decoration than as radios. Wow. I'd like to know about that little detector in the front.
I'd like to see this thing fired up.
You know what that could be, Tom? That could be, there were, back in the 1920s, there were grid leak resistors that were adjustable by adding water to them.
Whoa, really?
And it would change the resistance depending upon how much water you added to it. There was actually one, you know, there were different makers of them, and there were a few here in the US where you could basically turn part of it, and the amount of electrode that went into the water would change the resistance of the grid leak.
Wow.
I'm not saying that that's for sure what that is, but that was something that was actually common in the 20s.
So what would that adjust on the radio that a listener would care about?
By varying the amount of grid leak resistance, you would basically take your detector and change the amount of coupling, which would change. I mean, from a regenerative perspective, if it's a regenerative set, it would give you one more adjustment to change the regeneration.
Okay.
Would it also increase the bubbling sound with the water?
I've seen fiddly drip pans.
Tiny bubbles.
Oh, no, that's Hawaiian. That's Don Ho.
Oh, right. Well, sorry, it's the only thing I could grab.
It would be
motorboating effect.
I think it'd be worthwhile buying this set just to figure out whether that's a water.
What the heck is that thing?
Grid leak detector. Take a leak. I mean, detector.
Yes, of course it could be all a joke. It's there and does absolutely nothing.
I bet that'll be there next year. I might just have to buy that thing.
Yeah, I think so. You have to do it at least for a show and tell so we can see it.
Yeah. I love this one, the not radio. It's not a radio, it's $40. And here's an overview of the hall. And that's it for tonight, folks. Thank you for your
Thank you.
attention.
But it's just, look at
Be
the size of
aware.
that thing.
Be
Wonderful.
warned. Be
Wonderful.
warned, I have a lot more.
Oh, well, you know what? We're gonna give you a 10 to 15-minute slot every meeting as long as you're up for it, Tom. You know, I love the size of the scale of that hall, by the way, because that's where, you know, the dirigibles were
Yeah.
covered in that big storage area. It's just
And that's
amazing.
only half of the hall that you see. There are 2 rooms like that.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, I guess then it's my turn to share and pick up where we left off last time. So why don't I do that? Okay, can everybody see this? I think this is kind of where we left off. I think I started to go down this road. Let me just make sure. We might have covered this. Forgive me if we already have, but I think this is where we kind of left off. This is a Colster radio.
Holster Brandis is the name of the company.
Oh, good call. In fact, that maybe the sticker offers a little bit more insight here. It does say read the instruction book before attempting to operate this radio set. So you've been warned. You know, there's even back then, there's a little bit of a nanny warning, just like we have in our all our owner's manual about, you know, electricity can kill you, so don't stick your finger in the socket before you turn this on. But anyway, one of these uncommon radios that was certainly photo worthy. Oh, right, here we go. It's a nice close-up of the dial face. And you know, with a little more cleanup, you get a nice bright emblem out of this. I forgot whether this was Merrill's table or somebody else. Here's a look at the innards. That's very kind of interesting. Nice little Zenith Deluxe clock radio.
I had one of those when I was a kid. I was about 9 and I could just never get it to play right. Probably because I was 9.
Yeah. It's got that
But I
nice.
always thought it was a very cool looking little radio, kind of like a set of eyes, you know, with the clock and the dial.
Yeah, and a nice little tidy little Telechron timepiece on there. Really, it's a really smart looking radio. You know,
those the original knobs.
that's
I
an
don't think so.
George. Yeah,
Yeah, they kind of look like add-ons.
it's just
Yeah,
like
I think
right.
they were too small, little black.
Yeah.
They fit in a little bit more with the motif.
Yeah, I agree.
Were the clock hands luminous?
I believe they were. And the other interesting thing on that is it didn't have the front knobs, but you know, usually on those, it's always the knobs for the clock that you can't find.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly right. But because they're the ones that, you know, because they're the ones always being played with, and they get a lot of torque. And the plastic just gives up with
the
age.
badge on the front and everything. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, other than getting a couple of, I'm sure, findable knobs for it, would clean up nicely. You know, nice little unit.
Ooh.
Emerson.
Yeah,
Nice.
look at that. What a nice. What a,
Plascon? I don't think that's a Bakelite.
That is Plascon. That's what it's called.
the Plascon.
Yes.
Yeah, what a nifty little radio. I don't know the price was on it, but I thought it was certainly photogenic.
I have a silver tone that's in Plascon, and the neat feature is in a dark room, depending on the degree of darkness and the thickness of the material, you get like a translucent effect sometimes with the tubes.
Oh,
When it comes to the case, it looks kind of cool.
In a dark room, it looks really cool.
Interesting.
Pretty good. It's not
Does
too
the
many.
whole-
There's
the
only
whole
one
radio
crack I can see.
glow? Does the whole radio glow then?
Not real bright, but it's just kind of like it looks like it could be a special effect in a creepy movie.
Oh, I was thinking more, come on up, sweetie, and see my Plascon.
Oh, there you go.
A little mood lighting.
That's right. The typical pickup line of the day. And his nice little True Tone.
Probably by Belmont, right, Greg?
Yeah, I think so. Cause I had one just like that.
That's a very pretty radio. Love the presets.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a
This-
replacement plastic cover there, because that's just mint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like it's been worked on.
This might have been
Really cleaned
Paul
up.
Lavoie's table. I'm trying to remember whose table this was. But yeah, nicely done. You know, certainly looks like probably you could take
I should get
it
a
home.
picture of mine right here.
Oh, you got one?
You must live in Connecticut. Look at the selection of stations. You got New York and Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah,
OR.
but what's MEX?
WMEX,
Wemex.
Arnie Ginsberg.
Ernie Ginsberg.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, I believe WMEX is like Brockton area.
But then he's got WOR over on the other end.
Yeah. Very good. WOW, you got OR, WEE, NBC.
WEEI.
Yeah.
Yeah, EI. Yeah.
Nice, nice little radio.
So I wonder if those are mechanical presets or electrical presets.
Yeah,
Those
they're
are
mechanical.
mechanical.
Oh,
There's a screw on the tuning knob, which is on the side of the radio.
wow.
You loosen up that screw. And when you loosen up the screw, you hold the button in that you want and kind of put it to the radio you want, then you retighten the screw. It's a
Great.
little tricky. You want to make sure the radio is warmed up for a while before you do it. Otherwise, you might be a little off, but I find with all those mechanical ones, it gets you close and then you can fine tune it the rest of the
Right.
way.
Right. It's a convenience thing, save you a few turns. Yeah. This, I'm pretty sure this is Paul Lavoie's table now, because I recognize this because this is his Phillips. And I know that was his nice early mid 60s Phillips, well known for their tabletop stereo, twin speaker, just beautiful, neat sound.
Down at the bottom of the dial.
Sorry. Sorry, I missed. Did someone say something?
Yes.
Carl, you're muted.
At the bottom of the dial to see what the a series of numbers apparently.
How's that?
Yeah.
Now you're good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See the
Does that-
10. All right. I guess it's just a logging scale, because there was a similar type of setup on the first picture that Tom had with the TV.
Yeah.
And at first I thought those were TV channels, but I guess that's a
Yeah, the
logging
Tesla.
scale.
Yeah, they used to similar. Look at they seem to maybe they shared styles or how they wanted to.
Well, it's actually a nice way of doing the logging scale, because you actually can get down to the tenths, like.
Yeah.
By the way, it's not a US Philips. It's
Yeah.
a European one. Philips North America built radios, but as far as I know, they never made them like the European ones with the names of the long wave stations and so on.
Second,
Right.
second
So
pack of stations there. Could the AFN be Armed Forces Radio? Armed
Yes.
Forces-
Yeah, Frankfurt.
Well, it does, interesting enough. It must be new if it's got the full FM spectrum, because it does end at 108.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's new enough that they threw all the bells and whistles at it. Maybe they made it, easily exportable.
I
Yes,
see I
nice.
see a price tag on top over in the
Oh,
right hand,
yeah,
upper
let's
right hand
see.
corner.
I forgot. I think it was like in 2 something, if memory serves.
275. Okay.
275. There we go.
Yeah.
Yep,
All
that's
right.
probably what it's worth too.
Yeah.
And Paul restored it, so at least you can.
Oh, it's restored too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
That's probably a great deal.
Yeah, actually, Paul's has actually done some pretty fair pricing. In fact, I bought an Arena T2600 receiver, and the reason I actually ended up with the receiver because I really wanted the speakers. I ended up with 2 Telefunken speakers, RB46s, which I had as a kid with I had the receiver that I had my mother's receiver, but my sister gave the speakers away. And so I found that Frank was, Paul was selling the exact same speakers. So I got the whole kit, a beautiful Danish receiver from the early 70s and 2 speakers for $2, and it was well worth it because the speakers alone are worth it. But I thought I just treated the receiver as like a bonus, and that's a nice unit. So I think
I didn't know that was your sister. Do you want your speakers back? No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah. Good one, Bob. She did give me the receiver, so I do actually have the original receiver that my parents bought brand new in 1968, one of the early solid state telefunctions. But lo and behold, my sister finds them in the closet, decides, oh, I have a friend who would like the speakers, and I knew nothing about them until it was too late. I'm like, oh.
I had a sister that gave away a nice vintage tuner that I had. It was a tube tuner and it had the signal strength meter that was an I tube that came to a point.
Yeah.
Just like it looked like an exclamation point. So when you were like strong on the station, it would jump. And I had that sitting around, and I was looking for it, and I didn't know what happened to it. My sister came home from college. I asked her what she said. Oh, I gave it to my friend who was looking for something like this. Thanks for asking me first.
Yeah, that's how what could I say? I just kind of shrugged my shoulders, but I was so bummed. I didn't know what to say. It's like, all right, well, it's too late now.
What are you gonna do?
Exactly. So, but fortunately, Paul came through. I happened to have a set, and he gave me a deal I couldn't pass, and I had to have those speakers because I had them as a kid, and they played beautifully. So,
Paul's a good guy. If you ever have the chance to talk to him at the show, he's always good to talk with. He's always telling you, and he goes to extremes when it comes to fixing things too.
Yeah.
Very detail oriented with stuff.
Yeah. He does beautiful woodwork too. He's done some beautiful cabinetry. He has that Philips radio. In fact, I might have taken a photo of it. I don't remember that. Stunning work.
One of my pet peeves is when people put stickers on the finished wood, though, instead of like on the plastic front or something else, where it's safer.
Yeah.
I don't know how many sets I found like that, and you pull it up and it's like the finish goes off of it. That looks nice.
Then you try to clean it off with Gooby Gone or something like that, and it stains the cabinet. I know.
Yeah, it's a little bit risky. That's why the tags like that are usually a little bit safer bet.
I always use tags when I'm selling radios.
Yeah.
That's a nice Crosley right there.
Sure is. When I was in fact, actually, Rob, if he's on at the Arizona Antique Radio Club, they had a auction, and that's how I got my automatic Piece 57 radio for $5. Well, I think one of these went for $5, and I walked. I was trying to walk away. I'm like, and I turned, and the guy ran up and got it for $5 and ran, faster than the end of a Three Stooges episode. And and I'm like, oh, but I was like, well, I can't take 2 home radios. I would have gotten a double hit with the rolling pin, whereas at least I could take a single blow safely. But yeah, this that was, I think, in a dark wood or black. I forgot what it was. I think it was black, but it wasn't. I think they did come in black.
I think they did a Bakelite.
Yeah, I think it was black Bakelite. Sold for $5.
Patriotic.
They had a I can't remember what version they call it, but it had highlights of like the American flag on the dial as well.
Patriotic.
Yeah, it's a really handsome radio
maybe, or something with the.
Yeah,
that's some.
There's a nice 500 in the back there.
Yeah, I saw that H500 Zenith sitting there. I caught that one too, Adrian.
I'm not sure if I got a shot of that, but we'll try. I wonder if I can see the price tag. I'm set up. I guess it's turned upside down. Someone flipped it when they looked at it, I guess.
I think that other one was called the Crosley Victory model.
Victory.
Oh, that's right.
Here's a Philco. Is this a Philco 60?
That looks like an 89B.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That's what it looks like. I don't know if that's what it is, but
I think it's probably a 60. The 89 had a little different Cat's
Oh, yeah,
eye
yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
had the
You
roll.
got it. Yeah, it is a 60.
But I think this is on Paul's table. This is restored. I pretty good chance it's either him. He was sharing a table with Don Elliott. So I could be wrong that it could be Don's, but they both do radio restoration. So they do good work. And that seems pretty fair for a fully restored Philco. It looks in pretty nice, pretty useful cosmetic shape. Here's one that maybe needs some work. I'm not even sure what this is. It is a Philco.
That's a Philco, but that's one of those photo
Or
finish radios. Where it's just like a big decal on the front.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, this one needs a little bit of love, but it looks like it's all there.
Just a little 4-tuber.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's another.
It's another True Tone.
You could have got the brown and the white model.
Yeah, I know. Collect them all. This one looks to be
bookends.
It looks in pretty solid shape there. I think it just could use a little bit of polishing up to, get a little more bling out of it, but looks all there. What we got here for now? We got WSP, WOR,
WSM backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
Air
So,
Castle of the South. Interesting. Wonder where that guy was. You pick all that stuff up.
yeah, I don't know.
With a good long wire back when there was a lot less interference, who knows?
Sure. But nice shape though.
I was thinking more than likely someone just had a bunch of those call letter things and they filled up the empty slots.
Yeah, you may be right, George. Maybe random.
Charlie Perquette wrote a great article in the newsletter one year, our previous club president, and it was during an extended power outage. It might have been, we got certainly nothing like what New Jersey got for Sandy, but it did bring a lot of power outages. So he was up in New Hampshire, and basically the theme of his article was, when the lights went out, the radio reception just went through the roof. All the ambient RF floating around the neighborhood, the street lamps were out. He had, I believe he was using a super radio at the time, and he was having a blast tuning in stuff he could never get. When the power was into the neighborhood. So if you put yourself back in time, before mercury vapor lamps and fluorescents and LEDs and computers and wall warts, you probably could do pretty well on a small set in a lot of different parts of the Northeast.
It's gonna happen again
here in central New Jersey. I mean, I've been in my house for 25 years. When I first moved in here, there was no noise whatsoever. Now I can pull out some of my best like digital receivers, like ham radio quality. And unless I'm using my dipole, which is only 25 feet above ground, I got stuff all the way up through 80 meters. I mean, all the way to about 4.2 megs, and that's when it starts to clear up.
Well, it's interesting when you see the tuning charts in some of the old 3-dialers, and you look at the distances of the stations that were logged with the, where each of the 3 dials had to be set, and they were pretty far. It's not uncommon to see them up here in New England with WBZ, but then stations out west in Chicago and so forth. So
them's were the days.
We have the New Jersey Antique Radio Club in our museum. We have a working AK-20, and I've been in there at night, and we're literally on the beach. I mean, we're literally, you can throw a stone and hit the ocean, and at night that thing really wakes up. It's just a really good regen radio, man. It'll kick some butt at night.
Yeah, that's the 1-3 tuber I kept when we had to downsize a 3 knobber. That's a nice little radio. Little being based on the time.
Well, that's in good shape.
Yeah.
What brand of meter is that? I can't recognize that.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it. We can get this a little closer. It's
Oh,
a fluke.
It's a fluke.
Oh, so it's no good.
Yeah, that's right. If it works, it has to be a fluke.
That's right.
Well, it's a
It's a
No,
fluke.
I actually, I love fluke meters.
It's a fluke if it works.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
that's right.
go.
That's pretty cool.
I think that's an LED meter. That wasn't like a liquid crystal display meter like what I have or what's pretty
No,
common.
I think you may be right there, Bob.
I think those are Nixies.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
Looks
that's
like
oh,
Nixie.
that does
Those
look
are
like a
Nixies.
Nixie.
No, it's
yeah.
a Nixie. A
good
Nixie.
call. Good call, Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see them.
Nice
behind-
catch. I didn't see that.
Yeah, if you look, you see them sitting there behind them. Yes, indeed. This is a car radio, looks like it's an add-on.
Yeah, it's an FM converter.
That's
Yeah,
when it's 1976 and you're driving a 1952 DeSoto with no radio. And you
Yeah.
find that in the garbage and you hook it up to the 6-volt car battery and it plays. So it's better than nothing at all.
yeah. Yeah, I saw it was kind of neat. I just, I saw it and I said, well, it's worth a shot.
You know one a car radio accessory that's become stupidly expensive
What's
are
that?
the old FM converters that used to put under the dash.
Oh, sure.
And then you would tune to like 1400 or 1500 and pick up FM. Those things were garbage. But all these vintage car guys are buying them up. So if you come across one, save it. Don't throw it away because it might be worth some money to the right person.
Yeah.
You
no,
remember
it's-
the reverbs you could buy for your car? And if you open the box, it literally was a couple of long springs.
Yeah.
No,
And
it's,
there's one Motorola reverb that you used to be able to put in your car, and I forget the model number, but if you have one that's working, it's worth a small fortune.
well, it's all that period accessory stuff that people sort of fondly remember. And then they get,
I just took my 67 Buick wagon that has a working AM radio, and I've gone through it and it works great. I want FM in the car. So when my wife's CD player went bad in her Camry, I bought her another one off of eBay, put it in the car, and this had FM on it. So I have a Camry radio in my Buick wagon.
oh,
But it works. It's all right.
yeah. No,
But
hey,
trying to find a 67 AM FM radio, and it's not worth it.
no,
It'll
exactly.
lose a few
You pay for the
concourse
nose.
points.
Yeah, well, mine's a driver. It's got some dings and paint chips and a little rust. It's a driver.
But it's fun. That's the whole thing. You drive to enjoy it.
Yeah, that's it. That was kind of cool to see this radio, though. That was
Oh,
neat.
wow.
Yeah, I saw it out of the blue. I said, well, that's worth a shot because you don't see those very often.
No,
Here's a
now is this like military test equipment here? Maybe.
Yeah. it looks
baby.
like-
Yeah.
Yep. Looks like it might be part of a noise measurement or signal.
Oh, there's a power supply.
Yeah.
I had hooked on phonics stuff
Oh.
I took a while ago is paying off in spades. Now I could read Weston.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. There we go. Don't know what that gadget is all the way to the left.
What?
That
I'll
little
back
thing.
it off. Yeah, let me go back. Let's
I
have
was trying to figure that one out. That thing all the way to the left there. Anybody who care to guess?
It says a vacuum tube voltmeter,
Oh,
Yeah.
and
And
it's.
it's,
Just gonna move you guys.
maybe both.
Yeah.
think that might be a Booton. Oh yeah, it's Booton.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
New Jersey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably about 35 minutes from where I live. The town's still there. The company's gone, I think, but the town's still there.
The handsome looking piece.
They made some really good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, it looks nice and solid, and
If you ever come across something like that at a flea market or wherever, give it a second look because some of that stuff that came out of Booton Laboratories were really good quality pieces.
it says I think it says $20.
$20.
Restored. I think it said restored and calibrated for DC volts. No AC. No AC. I can't read this, but you could build your own. So it says, I assume it has no AC.
Please buy and ship to Bob Bennett.
Yeah, you're right. I think Bob is saying for $20, man. Yeah, there were some reasonable bargains at the show. Oh, okay, here's something, your typical 80s, early 90s boombox,
Tony Novoloni.
There you go. I remember that.
Yeah, that's when that's probably a really quality boombox right there, though. In all fairness, Sony made some great stuff in the 80s and 90s.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Remember it's a Sony? It's a Sony.
Hey, let me tell you that in the 70s, the 70s and 80s, the Sony Trinitron TVs were second to none. In terms of their pictures were really nicely done for the price.
John, let me add that I'm glad you brought that up, because gamers are looking for those TVs. So if you have one and it's in working order, don't put it out to the curb, or give it to your neighbor's kid or something like that. Sell it, because the gamers are looking for those TVs.
I bet. Yeah. Well, in fact, our first color TV was a Sony Trinitron. My dad bought it from my cousin. He wanted to my cousin didn't have it very long, wanted to upgrade to the next best thing. You see, he was always the first kid in the block to get the neat toys. So, he sold it to my dad for quite reasonable money, because we were running with a Philco black and white. And so we had a 19-inch. I thought we were just in heaven. I just said, wow. And the picture was really nice for the time. Nice TV. Yeah, this is built in 1973, I think.
And they were simple TVs on the inside. I mean, they were well laid out, all the boards, all the wiring. I mean, it's just so well done.
Yeah, and quality, all the switch gear. It was just a very well engineered. Yeah, it was well engineered.
I had an ICF 7600 AM/FM shortwave, and I got it for $99 at Sherman's in Boston. It had a knob where you would actually turn, and you would get an analog band. You could go from shortwave to AM to FM, and it had a little digital readout in the upper right-hand corner. I mean, with an antenna that I rigged up, I DX'd the world on that thing. It was really a nice radio, and it's only recently started giving me some trouble after all the years, and a beating, I have to tell you, because I carried that with me on trips and camping and hikes. That thing took it.
Yep, absolutely. That was the time. This showed up this neat little Polaroid camera.
Well, that's an early one, I think.
Land
camera. Yeah.
I think I showed that last week.
I had an uncle that had one of them, and he was so proud of that thing.
Yeah, I think I showed that the last meeting, but I happened to I guess I took another shot at a different angle, but still worth fun to see, because, look at just the quality and the mechanical, the mechanical, controls and so forth. You just really appreciate the time when everything was mechanical and nicely engineered.
John, if you go in, if you zoom in, that scale down on the bottom left is focusing, I think.
I think
number of feet. Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the bellows got bigger, shorter, or longer, depending on how you focused it. I never realized that, but that makes sense.
Yeah. You're right.
Does anybody know why it was called a land camera?
The company was Polaroid Land.
Dr. Edwin.
That was the name.
Yeah, he was an engineer for them.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Edwin Land. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
started the company.
Didn't know that. Huh.
You couldn't use it plain.
But he only got the smaller font. He wasn't Mr. Polaroid.
Well, I get to know all these names because in our where I work at Juniper Networks, they have on different floors, they have different themes of the names of the conference rooms. But on our second floor, it's all inventors from New England area, and we have a conference room named Edward Land. So and we have a little description of what he did. So we get to learn something on a regular basis if you go to the right conference room.
But one of the digital equipment plants had its conference rooms labeled with things like Hall of the White Mists. Yeah, I think it was out of the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, sure. Okay. In fact, one of our conference rooms is Ken Olsen, by the way.
Oh, yeah, my wife spent many years in Maynard, Massachusetts,
I
working
bet.
for DEC, and I think I just had a cup of coffee this morning on I have an old DEC coffee cup.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Here's and more pre-table. Look at the seagulls flapping their
Yes,
arms.
there's the vultures picking
Yeah.
off the carcass right now.
Exactly. You see this guy's grabbing some meat right there. He's got his claws right on him. But it's but you know what? We had some good stuff actually on the free table. I mean, I was happy to see the ratio of stuff dropped off and what was left. There was very little left that people left behind, because that's always been the big no-no. People drop stuff off and think it's more closer to a dumpster than a true giveaway, and they just leave it and run. But people have been good about that this time around. We had very minimal leftovers. But there's Jim and Jeanette. Jeanette's always the gatekeeper for us, keeps the machines rolling.
Chilly morning.
Exactly. Oh, speaking of computers, here's an old IBM for a whole $10. PC monitor, no keyboard. Well, that can be found easily enough. Probably go to one of those MIT Amfests. I'm sure you can come with lots of that stuff.
Yeah, I've got an old IBM PC keyboard, which was the original metal one with real keys. And the keys are, IBM spent a lot of money making the force versus distance for the key just right. So as you press down on them, suddenly they roll down. It's what they learned from the typewriters.
Yeah. No, their keyboards had nice tactile feel.
Yep.
No question about it. And it's a lot of money, but now today it's been commoditized.
Yep.
Oh, here's a neat Philco.
Mm.
Not sure which model this is, but it's
That's
quite
just someone really went crazy on the remodeling the cabinets. I kind of like it. It's
unusual. I mean,
yeah.
You see the banding, it's a nicely symmetric in that regard.
I don't think that was even close to what it originally looked like, but I kind of liked it, that look. It's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? I remember talking to the person, but I forgot. I think he just made that decision somewhere along the way and say, hey, I kind of like the way it looked. So think of it as a custom one-off. But I think it works.
The 2-speed tuning knob there.
The
yes.
2-speed tuning knob.
Oh yeah. Yep. Good catch. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really nice. I've got a different version of that Philco, and it's nice to work with.
Yeah, it's actually a neat job. I wouldn't kick it off my table.
No, he must have ordered a bunch of different toners and decided to try them all out.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? It kind of works. It's like at least you symmetry. You did the middle here, did the middle there. The contrasting dark. It works. I think it was.
Somebody threw a bunch of Howard toners on the free table and then they stick them on.
Yeah, maybe. I'll tell you, you wouldn't believe all this free stuff that was given off. Lots of test equipment. This was
Scopes are us.
Yeah. You name it. It was all over the place.
Wow.
Nice stuff.
As a nice digital frequency generator, I think.
Yeah, it's got a bunch of stuff.
Counter.
The counter up top.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
Holocrafters are us.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, right. I'm trying to think of
$80.
Yeah. That wasn't your table, was it, Bruce?
Yes, it was.
I was gonna say, I'm looking and say this looks familiar.
Yeah. No, it's my first rodeo, and the first time you're trying to sell this stuff, I know I shouldn't do it, but I had to take into account what I ended up paying for the basic carcass as a starting point, plus all the parts that I put into it. And this was still, selling at a loss. But, nobody's going to buy an S38 for $80, particularly since I decided to leave the cabinet as is. I really didn't want to spray paint it and then have to put all the labels back on, because the labeling was all still very good.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't look pretty. So, none of that stuff moved. The only thing that went was the Blaupunkt German radio.
Oh yeah, the far end.
And a couple of weather radio songs. A couple of small things went. But this stuff is still up in my attic, waiting for the next show.
There we go. So I think it's a little pitch from Bruce's favorites. Anyone interested in any one of those, you give them a call. You reach out. It's a close up of the WR 1500.
Yeah, that Hallicrafters actually performs really well. I had that hooked up to my long wire, and there were a couple of things that it was picking up stuff that my little Sangean, which is not bad, just didn't even hear. Nice radio.
The wooden one is pretty nice shape. Does
Yeah.
that have a speaker in it, or is that headphone only?
Is that a 1500? I think that was the wooden one. That's kind of a rare radio, actually.
It's a WR 1500, I think.
Yeah.
And it is electrically identical to one that looks more like a typical communications receiver. I can't remember exactly what the model.
Yeah, the S120.
Was it? Okay, it's like the Mark III of that model. It's electrically identical. That, I got kind of a kick working on these things. I could never afford a Hallicrafters when I was a kid, always wanted one. And just by chance, there were a bunch of estate sales, auctions, and they just popped up, and I grabbed them and I started working on them. And I have to admit, the S38 was disappointing. A lot of people really love them because it was their first radio way back when. It drove me nuts trying to get that thing working, and I wasn't overly impressed with the insides. But the other two were really pretty well designed. I like them.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Does the wooden one, Bruce, have a internal speaker?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Nice. Maybe they put it in the wood case, figuring it might be something you could bring upstairs.
Oh, absolutely. It was definitely
spare
marketed
room.
as a living room bookcase type radio, as opposed to the
Some navy gray looking
communications receivers. But
you'd be told to get out of that room.
yes.
Not in my house.
You just bought a what?
There's another close up of it. All powered up and lit up.
Yeah. I want to bring a Part 15 transmitter next time, because it was nice to have the power there and be able to turn the pilot lights on and everything, but you couldn't pick up anything.
No, it's a big Faraday cage in that.
Yeah. So I may try to get a speaking house or something like that next time.
More goodies you were selling.
The HW16, that's actually my first ham rig, and I'm a very inactive ham. I was licensed in the 70s, never took off on it. I was always much more of an SWL. So I made a few QSOs on my Heathkit, and then I passed it on to a good friend, hoping he'd get his license. And I got it back 35 years later. It's like and he still didn't have a license. And I decided not to go to any trade. It doesn't work anymore. The HW16 did have a mouse in residence for a while. It didn't chew anything, but there was a lot of corrosion. And so that one, I should probably drop it down to about $50, if that. A lot of people will, like to use them for parts, and it's actually pretty clean, and I think is fixable. But the VFO was in pristine shape. I don't know why.
What is that, got like a 6146 in there?
Honest to God, I don't remember. It's been so long since I built it. I just didn't pay much attention.
It's a nice CW receiver.
Yep.
The problem is with them is that it's restricted to just the novice portion of the bands.
Yep.
But yeah, I've had one and enjoyed it, and yep.
Yeah. I kind of thought the top unit, that's the Conelrad alarm. It's a CA1, Heathkit CA1.
Yep.
And it was from early 60s. They only sold them for a few years, and it was to satisfy the government requirement that if Conelrad went active, you were immediately supposed to shut down your ham transmitter. And it's in good shape. God knows if it works. Who knows? But I kind of thought that would go just because it was different and interesting, rare, but nobody seemed to be interested in that either. So lesson learned, drop the prices.
That's the one that sold.
That's the one that sold. Yeah. Yeah.
The Blaupunkt Florenz.
That's in nice shape.
When I went into it, I discovered pretty quickly that German radios like this scare me. It was it had a lot of small electrolytics, pretty tightly packed, and I decided not to go after that. So I replaced the filter capacitor, lubricated, cleaned. Some of the plastic on the front was loose, so I glued that back in place. But it actually plays very well, and if it weren't so damn big, I would have been tempted to hold on to it myself. But I got to get stuff like this out of my house.
Yeah, you throw on a couple of bookshelf speakers because there's output for them, and you have a even nicer sounding system.
Yeah.
You think about a lot of those German radios, they usually had a speaker output for a bookshelf. You could always make even a single speaker get two speaker, even if mono. But if you get a stereo one, you can really go to town.
One thing I'm very curious about, every picture I've seen of those radios, they had the discoloration around the speakers. It's like you do Google and Florenz and other Blaupunkts, and they're always discolored. And I don't know why. It almost looks like water damage when you first look at it, but it wasn't. So I don't know what caused it.
Yeah, and it's not unique to Blaupunkt. I've got a Lova Opta that has a similar behavior. I got the original grill cloth. This is a 6-speaker system. If depends on how you measure it, because it has a horn driver for the mid range. So it's a horn driver that's technically a single speaker with 2 horns going at each side. So it depends how you count, but it has on the front, it's got the big, 10-inch, they're like 9 to 10-inch, speakers that cover up, and they have the same similar thing that you have. And I just didn't want to replace the grill cloth because it's you know what, if that's how it turned out, I'd rather take the minor wart and live with it.
Yeah.
The grill cloth is otherwise in nice shape, so I wouldn't want to touch it. But you're right. I don't know what it is about the material, but that reacts with the grill cloth. It's really strange.
Very common.
Yeah. No, you're not alone in that regard, Bruce.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
This is nice. The Sultan Beachcomber. You could throw your sunscreen, I guess, and stuff. I assume this is just like a little box of the store stuff.
It says it's got a tan timer.
Oh,
up in the left-hand
yeah,
corner,
there it is. There you go.
so you don't burn yourself.
Yeah, exactly what dermatologists want to see.
You look like the radio when you finish.
Yeah, if you use that sun and stuff, you turn orange. Too bad it wasn't like, the orange case.
That's a hoot.
It is. That's right out of the 70s, 80s stuff. Well, here's a nice variety.
Eclectic mix.
I'll make this our last picture, for the night. There's a nice variety of goodies here.
Oh, yeah.
What we got? I'll look at this first one here.
I think that's the 790 Navigator.
It's the Royal, it's a Zenith Royal 760.
Oh, 760. Okay.
Ah, look at that. It's got the little case, got a compass. Wow. The handle's a little rough, but otherwise it looks not in bad shape. The all transistor navigator. What's in marketing, right? Marketing term.
Yeah, it's the My Pillow of 1957.
There you go.
It looks like a Generally Electric radio there,
I think you're generally right.
and I think that's a Telecron clock.
Yes, it is. That's right. Good old Ashland, Massachusetts. I'll make another pitch for our town, what brings us to glory. And what we got here is just say, oh, it is another GE.
Another Generally Electric, and then a Westinghouse portable in the back.
Yeah, that's actually kind of neat in its own way. Yeah, battery set. Also probably AC/DC set.
Yeah, it's probably an AC/DC portable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably from their that's probably like a mid-50s, early mid-50s.
Yeah. I don't know if they were 4 or 5 tube.
Bottom left-hand knob, what's that, what's it say there?
So it's battery off.
Battery offline, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure. Yeah, that was actually neat sight. You don't see that so often. And then what we got up here? This is looks like a, is that a
Silvertone, I think.
Silvertone? Yes, yes. Looks
I
like
hear the Jetson theme
reminds you,
song.
yeah, it reminds you almost the S ones reminds me of Studebaker logo. But well,
It looked like that.
Yeah, it did. It kind of looked just like it.
Oh, wow.
The old Halcrafters.
I'll show one more. But
It's the Echophone.
oh yeah.
After they bought out Echophone, and
Some neat stuff. This is a little newer.
Heathkit voltometer.
Ah, thank you.
always like that one.
Yeah, some good stuff here.
The VTVM version.
Well, guys, it's at the 9 o'clock witching hour. I should probably let you guys go because I still have more photos, and we could just pick this up at the next meeting. Because that's basically I was counting on spillover for the next meeting, and also maybe John Comer will be available for the next meeting to show photos from the AWA event he was at. So, and of course, Tom can show us more photos from Friedrichshafen. So we've got continued potpourri of pictures from all over the place.
I make
Thanks for setting
a
this up.
quick announcement here.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. On the 19th of this month, if anybody's going to be close to New York or North or Central New Jersey, NJARC is having a swap meet at the the PAL building in Parsippany, which is actually, if you're familiar with any of the highways here in Jersey, Route 80, Route 46, Route 287. It's very, very centrally located, pretty easy to get to. So if you think you might be around here that time, you can go to njarc.org and see the flyer and read up on it. So,
oh, good.
Some self-promotion for the club.
No, of course, no. That's the whole point.
And I will be there selling tubes. So if anybody wants to buy some tubes, I'll be there. And I also buy tubes as well as sell tubes.
Good to know. So there you go, folks. Consider yourselves advised. So there's a chance to come down just before Thanksgiving.
And thank you for having me again, guys. I had a lot of fun tonight.
Bob, you're always welcome. Always glad to have you. Just your, as far as I'm concerned, a permanent guest.
I'm gonna sneak over to the other room, which sports a old 46-inch LCD TV that I had to fix last year, by the way. I had to rebuild the power supply board.
Really?
And I'll watch the Phillies and the Astros, see if the Phillies could actually pull this one out here.
I'd love to see that happen. Yes, I do not want the Astros to win, but that's just me. But then I'm a somewhat disappointed.
See, now here's my story. I'm a Mets fan, but then the Padres beat the Mets, so I became a Phillies fan when they beat the Padres.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I mean, that's just kind of a long way to go for being a dog.
Sometimes it's just to see a team win. You know, you say, you know, I'd like to see these guys win. They seem to deserve it.
I'm used to pain and suffering because I grew up Catholic, and right from the womb, you're told you're a sinner. The Catholic school I went to had a thing on the facade that said, "Suffer the little children who come on to me." And I'm also a Mets fan and a Jets fan. So the Jets aren't doing too bad right now.
There weren't signs that said, "Thou shalt be a Mets fan and a Jets fan" as well.
Yes.
But yeah, well, you know, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's funny.
Well, your Pats beat my Jets, but the Jets blew it. They just, you know.
Well, I
one
mean,
of the things.
I'm not sure whether the Jets are overachieving or they're for real, honestly, you know, this year. It's hard to say.
Well, you know, one of my favorite lines is that sometimes it's just better to be lucky than good.
Mm.
And I think that's probably saying a lot for the Jets right now, although our quarterback is still somewhat questionable. And if you saw the Patriots game, then you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I didn't see much of that game because I was out, but about both New York teams lost, so the Giants were, you know, also I think overachieving, you know, but you know, they've stunk for so long. I've been very pleasantly surprised at their record. So, but we shall see.
They've got a heck of a team and a heck of a coach and coaching staff this year. So
well, finally,
that'll be interesting.
They've had a few rounds of getting it wrong, and maybe they finally have gotten somebody right this time.
Well, they kind of sort of cleaned house. They did everything but change ownership. They went right down the line, cleaned everybody out, general manager, everybody, and you know, this is just, I don't know if it's dumb luck or these guys are the real deal. So time will tell. The season's only half over.
Exactly right. But well, guys, it's great seeing you all. Glad to have you all on board. Thanks for everybody's contributions and announcements and everything else. Thoroughly enjoyed this meeting. And 2 weeks from now, we'll have another meeting just before I get this in before Thanksgiving. And so I will keep you abreast of anything, but otherwise we'll see you on the 17th.
All righty.
But in the meantime, stay safe, enjoy the nice fall weather we're having. And
we're having snow up here.
No way.
Yeah, in Prescott, we had snow today.
How much did you get, Rob?
Oh, the ground is too warm, so it didn't
okay.
stick. But it was big flakes coming down most of the day.
I heard that there was some snowstorms already in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm in Arizona, man.
Oh. Oh yes, it's a dry heat. I've been there.
Yeah. It's a wet cold too.
Well, you know, that's the strange thing, you know. It does feel insulting, doesn't it? Arizona is perceived to be always sunny.
You're probably up in the mountains, right, Rob?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. There's an explanation for
not as far as Flagstaff, but up there, about 5,200 feet. Yeah.
What? How many? How high did you say, Rob?
Oh, 52.
52. Yeah, that seems right. Because that's up there because, you know, you climb up route, you climb up 17. Yeah. You know, it's a pretty steep climb. You're going up pretty fast once you leave the valley.
Going up and going down. Yeah.
You know, it's no, you know, it's not a gradual thing. You pull right up there before you know you're up at, you know, you clear 2,500.
My daughter lives in Phoenix with the grandkids, and so, you know, going down, ears pop, going up, ears pop. Yeah, it's
oh yeah. But
well, thanks, John.
You bet. All right, guys.